BBC News. Now, the government has announced it's to carry out a major U-turn and exclude the Chinese company Huawei from involvement in Britain's 5G data networks. The Culture Secretary, Oliver Dowden, told the Commons that all Huawei equipment would be removed by 2027 over security concerns. He said the decision would cost up to £2 billion and delay the rollout of 5G by 2 to 3 years. The reversal of the policy will please Washington, but it will anger Beijing. Huawei says the move is bad news for anyone in the country with a mobile phone and threatened to put the UK in the digital slow lane. Rory Jones reports.
5G is on.
It's the controversial Chinese firm that the United States wanted its allies to ban. But in January, Huawei was allowed to supply 35% of the new 5G networks, which promise lightning-fast downloads and will power everything from smart homes to self-driving cars. Now, though, these Huawei masts are going to have to come down. After a meeting of the National Security Council, the government has announced a U-turn.
Let me be clear. This requirement will be set out in law by the Telecom Security Bill. By the time of the next election, we will have implemented in law an irreversible path for the complete removal of Huawei equipment from our 5G networks.
So what's changed since January, when GCHQ said the risks of using Huawei equipment were manageable? First, new sanctions mean the company may not have access to US technology, seen as vital to the safe use of its kit. And then there's the politics. The security crackdown in Hong Kong and China's treatment of the Uyghur minority have led to a revolt by Tory backbenchers.
We've wanted China to mature into this responsible global stakeholder, but it's become a superpower without any of the responsibilities that a superpower should be showing. We're going through it during international emergency, but there's no international leadership. And what we're seeing with China is it's discreetly pressing its advantage.
Now at least the mobile phone companies know what they have to do: strip out Huawei equipment and replace it with kit from Nokia and Ericsson. That won't make hitting the government's target of giving everyone either 5G or full fibre broadband by 2025 any easier. And some technology firms wonder why the ban is needed.
The justifications on security grounds are fairly tenuous. The equipment that Huawei supplies is very clever physics, but it's pretty much a dumb pipe in information technology terms.
What is clear is that the days when the UK and China were supposedly entering a golden era for trade are over. A gulf is opening up in the technology world between China and America, and the UK has chosen which side it is on. Rory Jones, BBC News.
Well, Jamal Ahmed is a Fellow of Information Privacy at Kazient Privacy Experts. He joins me now from East London. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Is this a sensible reaction or an overreaction?
There are pros and cons to the reaction. First of all, I'd like to say from a data privacy point of view, it's something that we welcome. From a data privacy point of view, it's something that we absolutely welcome. Data privacy is a fundamental human right, and in Europe and in the UK, we sometimes take that for granted. However, when you have countries like China who have a very poor track record when it comes to human rights, we can see that this is the right decision to make. We need to be very careful about who we hand over our data to. The use of data is exponential, and the fact that China have a law that says that Huawei have to hand over any data that's processed over its transmitters at any point to the Chinese government exposes individuals and also the government to huge risk.
But this was addressed when Huawei was given the contract initially, and there wasn't at the time felt to be any conflict here.
This was initially addressed when Theresa May first made the decision nearly a year ago to allow Huawei to provide non-core components as part of the 5G network. And the NCSC, the National Cyber Security Council, felt quite comfortable that they had measures in place. However, given the recent turn of events in the US, where they've placed sanctions on the chips that Huawei need to make those devices and make those transmitters safe and secure, the government has actually changed its decision and decided that actually we don't think it's safe enough for the UK.
Just explain to those of us who are fairly illiterate when it comes to computers, but if they want to hack the data, if anybody wants to hack the data, they can do that without necessarily having component parts in the 5G network, can't they?
That's right. I mean, the UK, we don't actually provide or produce any telecommunications devices or transmitters, but we can actually still, security services can still monitor that communication. The concern here is that because of the Chinese laws that exist, which means that Huawei have to share any data that's processed over their networks or over their
Well, I must say they
components.
deny that. They say they don't have that arrangement and they are separate from the Chinese government. I know the arguments, but I just need to say that is what their reaction would be.
And it's a fair point. They have been providing components for over 15 years to the UK, and to date there has been no evidence that there has been such data breaches. However, as data becomes more widely used, as it becomes more exponentially used, and when we look at the track record of human rights, especially the treatment of the protesters and also the Uyghur minority, Britain's decided to make a stance and say we need to think very carefully about who we want to go into long-term partnerships with. And unfortunately, China, based on your track record and the way you treat human rights, it's not going to be you.
There'll be a lot of confusion as to, you're talking about human rights, a huge issue, obviously, on the political agenda, but we're talking here about a 5G network, and as Huawei points out, this is going to hit people with mobile phones, and in the Commons we've heard it's going to cost billions of pounds, and it's going to put back by several years the take-up of 5G in this country.
That's absolutely right. I mean, when it comes to providing components for telecommunications, Huawei is by far the best manufacturer and supplier of that. And I think they spent about £11 billion in their research and development. So it will actually cost the UK time. It will cost us outages. But at the end of the day, the government's made a decision based on their assessment of the national security, and that's what they've come up with.
The boss of BT yesterday saying it could take up to 10 years to actually physically do this, and yet Oliver Dowden suggesting it could be done sooner than that. What is a realistic timescale for this?
Realistically, given the fact that we've been using Huawei components for over 15 years, it's deeply embedded in our infrastructure with the 2G, 3G, 4G, and increasingly they were starting to look at 5G. So it will take a significant amount of time, and I don't think anyone can accurately say exactly how long it will take to replace and strip out all of those components. And BT have estimated it will take around a decade, and I think that's quite accurate.
Jamal Ahmed, good to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.